Hi, my name is Peter Lundquist, and I did my educational technology lesson on Japanese internment camps. Today we're going to be going over the framework of my lesson plan, the summary of my lesson, the technology I included in my lesson, and that my lesson is teacher-centered. So the first thing I used is the Understanding by Design, a backwards implementation lesson plan. So with this backwards design, you start with your main goal, and my main goal was to identify that there are similarities between the Japanese internment camps and the Nazi concentration camps in World War II. Then you determine acceptable evidence that you want them to achieve. So what desired results do you want to achieve? And then what will students become proficient in or understand at the end of your lesson? Throughout those two things, then you identify and plan your lesson plan using different experiences and instructions and ideas to model those ideas to your students. So for me, I implemented 4 different uses of technology throughout this lesson. Now I'm going to go over those lessons. But first, I addressed 2 different Minnesota standards. One, a rapidly evolving world dominated by world industrialization, power, scientific and technological progress, profound political, economic, and cultural changes, wars, and widespread violence and unrest produced a half-century of crisis achievement. So this is a world history standard through 9 through 12 for the high school level. Then the second standard I addressed is a U.S. history standard, 9 through 12 as well. The economic growth, cultural innovation, and political apathy of the 1920s ended in the Great Depression, which spurned new forms of government intervention and renewed labor activism, followed by World War I and World War II, and economic resurgence. So the first type of technology I implemented in the first part of my lesson plan was a YouTube video. So the night before, my idea is for the students to go home and watch this YouTube video that I created in my Choose My Own Adventure project. In this video, they will get a background summary of the Japanese internment camps. It's only 3 minutes and 20 seconds long, so it won't be a long process, but it'll hopefully intrigue them into having some questions when they go into class and start preparing their mind for the subject of Japanese internment camps and to follow up the concentration camps. So it will act as a short background, and it will also act as a great review tool before the tests. Then when we get into the class, I would have a prompting question of, what do you know about concentration camps? I would ask my students to submit their answers in Wordle with their one-to-one technology that they have. And while they submit this, it will help the students prepare their minds to learn about the concentration camps and internment camps again. And will also give me a good understanding of what they truly know the most about concentration camps. And with me getting an understanding of it, it will also give their classmates an understanding of what some people know about the concentration camps in World War II. Then I will go into a Prezi presentation. In this Prezi presentation, I will cover all the main points of the lesson. So what does a Japanese internment camp look like, and what does a concentration camp in Germany during World War II look like? With their one-to-one devices, they will also be able to access Prezi. So my idea is that they'll have an iPad with the Prezi app on it. And with this, I will also give them access to the Prezi presentation. This will all again help them to be able to review the information before the test. And then my next step in the lesson plan is for them to split into different groups using Word or maybe another format. They're going to get one of the 5 questions here, and they can create a concept map or write a paragraph answering these questions. So the 5 questions are, what did a concentration camp look like in Nazi Germany? What did an internment camp look like in the USA? What are the similarities between the internment camps and concentration camps? What was used to change public opinion? And do you see any similarities in today's culture? So do you see any oppression of a specific race in today's culture? After they've answered all these questions, they will email them to me so I can have an understanding of what they actually grasped from the lesson. And then we will also go into a group discussion, so then that way they can share with their classmates what they've learned throughout the lecture and by discussing with other individuals. So I believe this will have a couple things. It will, number one, allow them to learn from their classmates, giving them a good indication of what they actually retained throughout the lesson. And then also with the group discussion, or with the use of the one-to-one item devices and sending me the concept map, it'll give me a better understanding of what the students actually retained throughout that time, and if I needed to reteach any concepts that I see as a main point and actually meeting the standard, the Minnesota standard. So throughout my presentation, throughout my lesson plan, I've used 4 different technologies: YouTube, Wordle, Prezi, and Word. And I believe that all of these different mediums that I've used have helped to increase the engagement in the lesson rather than deter from it. With the YouTube video, I believe it will be a very good review tool and also give them a quick inquiry or quick summary of the Japanese internment camps. With Wordle, I think it'll help the kids to understand, and for me specifically to understand exactly what they know about concentration camps before we go into it, so I can understand where I need to really highlight and other places where they might already have enough knowledge. With the Prezi presentation, I think it again will be a great review tool and also give them something that is right in front of them so they can take notes on it and things of that nature. And then finally with the Word document, I think, or creating the concept map, I think it will be a great tool for me to understand what they've retained in the lesson. And then with understanding what their retainment has been, then I can make sure that I reteach or make sure the students understand those big topics that I first identified in my backwards integration of the lesson plan. I believe that this lesson is teacher-centered, but it also does have some student-centered concepts in it. I believe it's teacher-centered because 30% or 30 minutes of this 50-minute lesson will be a lecture. And because it is a lecture, I see that it's very teacher-centered. But I do see the group work and group discussions as student-centered partly. So with those student-centered aspects, I see that I'm integrating, or I believe I have a good balance of both teacher-centered and student-centered activities, but I do see this as a majority being teacher-centered. What challenges did I have during this process? Well, I had a challenge incorporating technology. When I was in high school, we didn't use it all the time, so I found it as somewhat of a challenge trying to understand what technology I should use. Then the other challenge I had was writing lesson plans. So I have never written a lesson plan before, and so I found that aspect of this assignment slightly challenging. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this presentation.